Hello and welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan Steele and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shows. Today is a very special episode because it's not every day that I get to show off my fancy painted fingernails because my wife was playing with fingernail polish the other day. No, that's not it. Obviously, you clicked on the thumbnail, you read the introduction, you know what's happening here, and this is the video attached to the official response of the PDF version, the pre-order PDF. And actually, at this point, some of the people out in the world are starting to get their physical copies too. Of the Power Rangers role-playing game using the Essence 20 system, partially written and designed by yours truly. You guys know I've been talking about this for a long time. So today's going to be a fun day to talk about this game, this product, and really kind of help you just get a grasp on how freaking cool this game is. Whether you are a Power Rangers fan or a role-playing game fan or that wonderful Venn diagram where you cross over and you're the two things, this video is going to be for you. But, as you well know, we always start all of my episodes with the Week in Bryan. This is going to be a pretty easy week in Bryan because I've been busy. I've been very busy working on Power Ranger stuff. Also doing, always have the constant painting commission stuff on the thing. I'm getting ready to finish up one commission, which is pretty cool because that particular client has already told me that there is a whole slew of other models waiting for me. So, yay, more cool stuff to paint. As far as work stuff goes, like I said, I've been working on another Power Rangers book. Obviously, NDAs and such preclude me from being able to tell you what they are, but they are amazing, and you are going to have a super amount of fun. I showed you last week that I got the #1 issue for Power Rangers Universe from Boom, and it was super cool. But I also picked up a couple of other books. I picked up the Power Rangers Unlimited, it's an older trade, and the Power Rangers Psychopath. It was just kind of general coolness in there, and for someone who's working on the Power Rangers license, it is always good for me to have all the thoughts and canon and all that stuff running through my head to try and make sure that I do right by all the fans out there and by the previous creators that have added to the Power Rangers canon. Obviously, I want to do right by them and not forget their cool stories and stuff. So got a lot of reading going on. Let's see what else. Warzone recently, the guys over at Resnova put out a fancy new invitation for people to join the Facebook group. The formerly more or less secret, not really published Facebook group has now officially been said, hey, if you're a fan, come join the group. And it we're getting all kinds of attention there. And that's mostly because we're starting to get to the point where the game is on the outs. I had a really on the outside kind of edges towards that Kickstarter. I had a really good meeting with Alex, the owner of Resnova, and my boss over there. Which, strangely enough, segue into other things that I've been playing. You guys know that I play a ton of Sea of Thieves. Well, so does Alex, and we had a business meeting on a digital pirate ship. We actually had a Sea of Thieves. We made sure our headphones were stuck to specifically just party chat, and we discussed work for 2.5 hours while we sailed the seas of cheese, so to speak. Very cool. I suggest more companies out there have their business meetings while playing video games. Makes for a few distractions, but it's a nice laid back way of doing things. But we had this Warzone meeting, and the Warzone meeting was excellent. I had been working on the lore and the narrative, the fiction parts of the rulebook for a while now, so I haven't really checked in with Alex in a little bit because I've been working on that stuff, and there has been a lot of progression on the back end on things that I didn't know about. So I got to see some secrets, some cool things. I got to see some renders of some models that I'm sure that eventually Alex will show, the Facebook groups and stuff when we get a little closer to the Kickstarter. But I got to see some of these things that we've been working on start to really come together. And he and Tom Mason, the miniatures director, they're cranking out some really, really cool things, and I can't wait for you guys to see them. More importantly, I can't wait for you guys to play with these models and these rules and see the finished products and stuff. So all that put aside, Warzone's moving ahead at a lot. Just it's moving ahead full steam. So that'll be cool when we get a little closer to the Kickstarter. Obviously, I will be telling you guys, please pay attention to these sorts of things. Speaking of Kickstarters, not next week, but in 2 weeks, Renegade Games is going to have a Kickstarter for a game called Recklin Run. It's a solo play game, kind of a Mad Maxy style car wars thing, but it's you against the book, against the dice, that I did a bunch of narrative writing for. So I'm sure when that Kickstarter launches, I'll be definitely putting the link in the description and such. But in the meanwhile, you can go ahead and go over to Renegade Games site and watch them. Let's do real quick gaming wise. Been playing a lot of video games. Got to play the Waking Realms game where I'm the ninja cat monk guy. That game, our last session, we officially snuck into this city where the queen is supposed to be, to try and thwart the coup before she actually, breaches the gates and that sort of stuff. So it was a combatless game, aside from one spell being cast, pretty much. But we're gearing up for something big. I'm sure it's going to be here in the next week or so when we get to play again. I'm sure it's going to be a big, ugly, kerfuffle. That's the official word, by the way. It's kerfuffle. I got to play speaking of kerfuffles, got to play in the Curse of Strahd game last night, and we are getting our butts kicked. The session had to end mid-combat, because of timing and things for a bunch of grown-ups that have work and things to do. But we went into this kind of temple ruin dungeon thing, and it was filled with bad guys, and we accidentally, you always hear never split the party. We accidentally split the party. We didn't mean to. Some of us went one way, some of us went the other way, trying to fight these things. And this place has been, weird doors and side hallways, and suddenly a monster's over here, but I'm dealing with monsters over there, and it's looking pretty ugly when we ended the session. So we'll see here in a couple weeks when we play again. If we make it out of it. Tomorrow I get to run my homebrew game for my friends down in Indy, the ones that's very heavily miniature laden, all my painted scenes and stuff, and that's always fun. They get to actually kind of finish the first, hopefully finish the first chapter of effectively a 7-chapter story. So that should be cool. Everyone likes to level up and get fun prizes and things, and that's basically what this is. Weight loss journey. I have officially gotten past the 50-pound mark. Yay! But I can't seem to get further. I keep basically just hovering around that 50. So obviously I'm happy with that. I feel way better than I had. But I'm looking forward to figuring out how to keep pushing forward and how to make it better, make it go. That's really it. Kids are doing good. Wife's doing good. House is doing good. I think my shower upstairs might be leaking, but not bad. Um, I think that's it. Let's get into it. Let's do what you guys came here to see. I know there's gonna be a lot of new viewers to the channel because of this video, and please stay subscribed, enjoy, become part of the potential raffle that I do every month. Which, if you're new here, I do a comment raffle. If you comment on a videos over the course of the month. I compile all of the comment starters and randomly determine one comment starter for that month to win a fun prize package. And the prize packages have ranged anywhere from signed copies of my books to dice to I even sent out a video game because I had an extra copy lying around. Who knows? Basically, the studio provides something for you guys, and I try to keep. I obviously try to keep it gaming related, because you're watching a show about a professional gamer. It makes sense that you get that. So stick around, subscribe, comment, get in the raffle. All right, let's do this. Let's take a look. So I do not have a physical copy of the book yet, because obviously they're being sent out to stores, to distributors, to pre-orders, to all of those places first, and then us contributing folk, we will get ours afterwards. No big deal. I'm not worried about it because they did make sure that we had the PDF copies. I mean, I've had the PDF copy for a little while because I've been using it to work on other projects in the Power Rangers line. But it's now officially out in the world for other people to take a look at. There are 2 Facebook groups. The Renegade Games Power Rangers tabletop game group that is very helpful if you've got questions and things. There's actually even a pinned thread in that group, specifically if you have questions about the role-playing game to ask. And then there is also a fan offshoot from that group that is strictly a Power Rangers role-playing game group. That has been super helpful in getting people's questions answered, but also in sharing things like there are people that have already planned out new campaigns, figured out what their Rangers are going to be. There's some cool fan art already for people who have drawn their Rangers or went into one of those companies that you can design your own mini, and they've made their own Power Rangers mini as close as they can using that software and then shown the picture. It's a really cool place. Both of those groups are really good. You should totally check them out. Especially once you get the Power Ranger game in your possession. If something comes up where you have a question or something like that, aside from obviously asking me here, or finding me on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or Instagram or any of the other social media things, you can obviously go hit up those groups, hit that thread, and someone from the team will get a hold of you and at some point explain the situation. Or you can take a few minutes to surf the Facebook groups and look for maybe that question has been answered on someone else's thread, things like that. Or maybe just stick around and enjoy the show, so to speak. So what I'm going to do, if you see me looking over here a bunch, is because on my second window, my monitor window, I'm going to have the PDF open, and I'm basically going to give you a quick breakdown. And I say quick because we only have an hour of this show, technically only about 45 minutes of what I like to keep. I might go a little over because I'm so excited about this game. I might jaw on a little bit. But I'm going to just basically give you a quick rundown, talk about some of the system stuff, talk about some of the cool things that happen in this book, and really kind of paint you the mental picture of what it can be like to be a part of or run or partake in a Power Rangers role-playing game. All right, first and foremost, I want to thank the marketing director, Sarah Erickson. I believe Erickson is her last name. I am right, Sarah. I knew Sarah. All I know is she's a Sarah. I got to thank Sarah Erickson and the marketing director, and Scott Gator, the president over at Renegade Games, not only for giving me this gig and letting me be part of the Essence 20 family and and kind of at the head of in the brain box, so to speak, for Essence 20 and Power Rangers, but also for giving me the okay to make this video and to help spread the Power Rangers word and the Morphin Grid love. It's Morphin-tacular. You know how that goes. Let's get this started. So obviously the book starts with a credit page. It's got all the stuff from Renegade Games, and it has the authors, the Elisa Teague, TJ Storm, and myself for the books. But then there's actually a greater Essence 20 team that worked on this and G.I. Joe and Power Rangers, and I'm sure some of these guys have moved on to the My Little Pony and whatever comes in the future. Today, obviously, we're focusing on the Power Rangers because that is what's happening. Green Ranger represent. Only because I don't have redacted Ranger shirt. Otherwise, I'd wear that and totally spoil the character that I want to play. But that's neither here nor there. We won't discuss that. We're discussing this product. This amazing foray into the Essence 20 role-playing system with Power Rangers. But the other members of the team, we've got Ryan Costello, Ben Heisler, Paige Lightman, Gabriel Hicks, James Sobrano, and Eddie Webb. That aside from TJ, Elisa, and myself, that formed the Essence 20 kind of collective. On top of that, we also had Trivia Fox. Trivia was the really kind of the part of the glue that kept us all together. Where Elisa was, the captain of the boat. Trivia was the engineer that made sure that motor was running. So big thanks to everybody involved. I had a ton of fun with this project and a ton of fun with this crew. With this company, and as I've said before, heck, I did one of my thankful fors last year was Renegade Games and this project. So it gives you an idea of just how much I enjoyed and still enjoy this system, this project collective. But let's get into it. You guys don't. You're like, okay, yeah, he's so thankful for all these people and stuff. Let's get into it. What do you think? All right, so the book starts off with a fantastic foreword from David Fielding, which, if you don't know that name, that is the voice of the original Zordon. Someone in channels, they knew how to get a hold of him, and he did the foreword to the Power Rangers book, with which we thought that was super fitting and super cool, so you'll definitely want to check that out and give that a read. So Essence 20, the Power Rangers book starts off with, it basically goes into a rough overview of kind of the Power Rangers Zordon era history. Why Earth, why Angel Grove, why Rita, why Zed, what does this area have to do with things? But it does it in a way that you could play in the middle of the Mighty Morphin years. You could play later on in after that team have graduated and have moved on to other things, or maybe you could be one of the prequel. You could be a prequel team or an alternate universe. That's the best part about this game, is we are not writing it to be in a specific. Like you aren't playing as those Rangers. You're your own Ranger. You get to make your own Ranger. Now, if you obviously a GM, if they wanted to, they could come up with stats for the show Rangers and run you through that sort of thing. That's up to you guys. That's totally up to the GM and up to the players. But we effectively just give you the sandbox, and then you get to take the tools and the toys and the sandbox and play. So it goes through and it talks about some of the history, talks about the Morphin Grid, talks about how the reason behind why Angel Grove is targeted all the time by Rita's monsters. Obviously, spoiler alert, Zordon's command center and the Zeo crystals and the power core, that's right there next to Angel Grove. So that's the closest population center is Angel Grove, meaning that Rita, if she has to, Rita, Repulsa, and Lord Zed, if they have to send monsters to try and thwart Zordon and one of the champions of the Morphin Grid, they're going to be hitting this area, and so that's one of the biggest reasons why Angel Grove is riddled with monsters sometimes, and little gray putties. After the history of the game, it immediately goes into character creation. Character creation system for Power Rangers, and actually for all of Essence 20 systems, it is a combination of three things. It is your origin, which is, I know that sounds stupid. Your origin is your origin. Your origin is the kind of main backdrop, core element to your person. And in Power Rangers, that is your kind of the spirit behind your heart. Are you a generally athletic person? Are you more of a brainy person? Are you maybe somebody who had to? You know what? Why don't I pop through a couple of them before I start running my trap? So are you naturally athletic? Do you use comedy to were you just kind of born funny and you use comedy to get through hard situations? Are you just naturally kind? Like you want to look after other people? Or are you just kind of strange? Are you just like are you an oddball? Are you the weirdo? These origins, not only do they kind of shape you as a start, they give you your starting health. They give you one of your bonus essence points. You know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. Every character is based off of four, between the origins, influence, and your role. You are based on four stats called essence scores, your essence abilities. And that is strength, speed, smarts, and social. Four S's are your essence. Get it? Get we did there? A little alliteration, a little sounding out. For every point you have in one of these essences, you get an associated skill level in that section. Your basic character will start with 16 essence points altogether after you've applied character generation. Basically, you have a pool to start off with 12. And those 12 points you assign between the four things. You have to at least put one in every essence, because there are severe drawbacks if you ever have a 0 essence in one of those scores, from being comatose to being utterly so filled with ennui that you can't really be bothered to do anything. So obviously, when you build a character, you're going to put at least 1 point in everything. I mean, come on. You want your character to actually be able to do stuff. Your strength is your general toughness, your durability, your resilience, your athleticism, your physical prowess on a like a stamina muscular sort of sense. Your speed is your dexterity and your agility. And also it also affects your foot speed. We'll get to that later. Your smarts is your book learning, and that's going to be things like sciences, technology, how well you know other cultures, that sort of thing. And then your social is your strength of personality, your ability to be persuasive, convince others, whether convincing others whether you're lying or whether you're not. And also just your ability to artistically express yourself through song, dance, art, write, poetry, whatever. These are the 4 categories that you're going to put points in. You start with 12 points. You can put them wherever you want. And then you have an origin. Your origin will give you a point based off of that particular origin. Your origin will also give you a fun little like a special benefit, like an origin perk, if you will, that makes you special, even outside of you're going to be a Power Ranger. It makes you even just a little more special. There's something else about you that makes you a unique individual. When you're dealing with an origin, it gives you that bonus point. How I was talking about how when you get your 12 essence points to start, for every point in something, you get to pick a skill level attached to that essence. When you're dealing with your origins, it'll tell you, hey, this origin adds 1 to either speed or smarts, or this origin adds 1 to this, or whatever. And it'll have a list of associated skills to that essence score. So if it says, you have to add 1 to strength or speed, if you add to strength, here's a couple of different skills that you get to add a skill level to. You get to pick one of those. If you added it to speed, there's a separate list. You get to pick one of those. Every single time you add an essence point to your character, you get a skill level in that category of skills. Not only is that a remarkably easy way of doing things, but it also lets a game master know right off the top of their head. They can look at a character sheet and know whether or not things are calculated correctly, because they can look at a character sheet and go, all right, you got 4 strength, 1, 2, 3, 4. You got 5 speed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just basically, if your skill levels equal your essence score in that category, you're good. Yeah, all your points are spent and everything's where they're supposed to be. So after you pick your origin, you then get to. So I'll pause on this for a second. Obviously, if you have an idea of a character in your mind, like this is the character I want to play, this is who I want to be, it will be much easier for you to go, I want one of this, one of this, one of those, and then squish them together. If this is a character that you're like, I don't have any clue what I want to do, I'm just sort of throwing the numbers down and see what happens, kind of a randomly generated guy, then you're kind of probably want to look through all of them and just kind of randomly put together which ones fit together with what you're doing. Just follow the steps. The steps you can do in any order. There's nothing that says you can't pick your influences before you pick your origin, after you pick your role. It doesn't matter. As long as you have your origin, your influences, and your role, then you have a first level character. Does that make sense? Ready? Keep going. Pause. Catch up. All right. After origins, I'm going to actually discuss influences next, because they are the... even though roles are actually what's in the book next, I'm going to discuss influences because I think that they are more fluid than the roles themselves. The roles are going to be for all you D&D players out there, it's basically your class. For Shadowrun players, it's like your archetype. and those will be the things that will shape you throughout gameplay, and they grow. Whereas influences and origins are one-time things. They go to they attach to your character. They represent the background of your character. They represent everything that's happened to you up until this point, up until the point where you have taken on the role and have become the Power Ranger character. Influences are really cool. You must take at least one influence. You are allowed to take up to 3. And now I'm sure you're saying, Brian, why wouldn't you always take 3? If influences do things for your character, why wouldn't you always take 3? Ha ha ha! So, every influence that you take, influences are things that have happened for a significant amount of time in your life. Whether it is a core concept to your person, or maybe something you just did for a little while, something that affected you in a big way. So things like we have, I'll just go look at the first one, artisan. Artisan influence basically means that whether it is currently going for a little while, whatever, you've got at least at one point in your life you had an inspirational moment where you were a creative, where you created, whether it was singing, dancing, writing, whatever. You were a creator. You did that. You took that extra mile, and you made some kind of artistic expression. Possibly even like maybe a trade craft. Even you created stuff, and so that influence gives you a special benefits. They all have these things called influence perks, and this particular influence perk, an artisan, says that you gain edge when your art comes into play, such as when performing, sharing techniques, or applying your art to a mission. You are passionate about your art style, and you gain edge on social and smarts-based skill tests where your art style applies. So, for instance, if you're an artisan and you choose dancing, you're a dancer. And then during a game, during some game, there is a evil monster who plays a harp, and the harp makes everybody dance uncontrollably. There's definitely an argument for you to look at the game master and say, I think I should have edge on this situation because I am a natural born dancer, and my influence says if dancing would apply, I get this bonus. And hopefully the game master is going to say that makes a lot of sense. So that's what influences do. However, influences also always come with a hang up. Now, I mentioned a minute ago that you can take up to 3 influences. The reason why you wouldn't just go, well, hell yeah, I'm going to take 3 influence perks, get edge on a bunch of different things, or bonuses, or whatever. Every influence you take after the first one, you get that influence's hang up. For instance, the artisan. Let's say that the artisan, you chose to take the artisan, but it's not the only one you took. So it's the second one you took. So you get the hang-up. This hang-up says, you sometimes get absorbed by your work and miss what's going on around you. You suffer a snag on smarts and social skill checks unrelated to your art while you are actively involved with your art. So basically, go back to that dancer. Let's say you're in the middle of dancing. You're trying to perform. You're there's a really cool social scene in a ballroom or something, and you guys are dancing, and the game master says, all right, everybody, I need alertness checks to see something happening. Because you are currently involved with your art, you'll suffer a snag on that roll because you are so consumed by that which has become such a big part of your life. You're not going to pay as much of attention to the rest of the world because you are so focused on your art being what drives you. That's what a hang up is. And some of the other hang ups are, you might lose dice on a roll. You might in the case of, for instance, like the caretaker influence, so someone who actually goes out of their way to help and heal others, your hang up is you don't have a choice. You will take care of innocent people and other members of your team before yourself. So if there are other injuries, or if there's other people in harm's way, the game master may very well use that hang up to say, no, 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 you don't get to take cover and hide. You need to go help the kid in the bus that's falling off the cliff. That's what some of these hang-ups can do. So the influence perks, while it is cool to have multiple influences, it also helps shape your character. It helps shape your story. Fleshes out the cool background. It also, the more of those you take, the more you have also lived a life of where there could be some drawbacks. You know, there are some things that are maybe not so wonderful attached to that influence. You're consumed by a part of this, or maybe there's an enemy in your past. It all depends on what the hangups and the perks do. All that stuff is in the book. Plus, obviously, this list is not finite. There's going to be more down the road, obviously. So very, very cool. The influence adds a little bit of flavor and sometimes a little bit kind of merits and flaw kind of situation to your character. And then the last thing that you pick is your role. Your role is, in the case of a Power Rangers game, is the spectral hue in which embodies you. The different roles in Power Rangers are based off of the color of the spectrum that you are representing. So in the case of a Black Ranger, if you choose Black Ranger as your role, your initial impulse, your initial kind of what your core being is at the core of the role is you're kind of the heart and soul of the team. You help keep it together. You help, teamwork across the board. That's the nature of the Black Spectrum energy. Whereas something like a Red Ranger is going to be very much more martial, like very lead from the front. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're always going to be the team leader. Doesn't always mean that they're going to be, the upfront. I've got a sword in my hand and I'm going to take everybody on. You can absolutely make a Red Ranger using some other influences, your different origin, and then as the character progresses, take different perks to be maybe a techie Red Ranger, or be a Blue Ranger who's normally, the kind of grid tech masters. You build that character into being more of a team leader. The benefit of this system is that as you progress, yes, there is a leaning to that role. There is a based off of the main powers and things that it's going to get. There is definitely a kind of a skew as to which direction it wants to go, but you as an individual get to choose so many other facets of that character that you get to decide where it goes. You get to decide whether or not your Red Ranger is just, the Red Ranger is the party animal, and the Black Ranger is the leader, and the Yellow Ranger is the sniper. Like that. It's up to you. Yes, there is a leaning based off of the powers that they get per their spectrum, but that doesn't mean that you can't change. There's a lot of things on those the role benefits as you gain levels. There's a lot of things there that can let you pick from a broader base of perks, of grid powers, things that will let you shift the character somewhat into the other thing that you kind of wanted to do with this character. If you like the Red Ranger, but you don't want to be the lead from the front type character, yes, you're going to kind of start that way, and a lot of your powers are going to lean that way. But it doesn't mean that you can't take a bunch of general perks, grid powers, and the such that go a different direction, and it'll work out just fine. The best part about the SS20 system collectively is you working with your game master to make things work. This is a very malleable system. There are a lot of things that someone could go, well, how about I use this skill instead? The game master can look at that and go, I think that makes more sense. Yes, when we write the adventures, when we write the systems and stuff, there might be a thing that says this is the skill that for this particular situation. But we want you guys to think outside of the box. We want players to go, I like this idea. Can I do this? And the GM is supposed to take that into consideration. Obviously, some GMs might very well just look at things and go, no, it is by the book. This is what we do. And the line says athletics, you're using athletics. And then there might be other GMs that say, you know what, athletics, or you could maybe use acrobatics, or maybe even something along the lines of, maybe you're trying to run between a herd of elephants. I don't know. Use animal handling instead of athletics if that's what the character wants to try to do. That's the benefit of this system, is that it's very flexible, it is very malleable, and ultimately it's about telling a cool story and having a fun and action-y adventure time with your Power Rangers. So yeah, pick your origins, pick your influences. If you took more than one, make sure you write down your hangups, and then added the level 1 of a particular, whatever role you chose, you get the level 1. Level 1 in every role gives you 3 more bonus essence. So 12 to start, plus 1 for your influence, or plus 1 for your origins, and then 3 more from your level 1 at roll, gives you a total of 16 essence. That's the total of a level 1 character. Also, under any time that where your origin and your role gives you at first level, whereas your origin says that here's the skills you should take, or here's the skills you get to choose from for whatchamacallit, for the essence bonus, for the essence bonus of your origin, you get to choose from these particular skills. The role first level does the same thing. Basically, your basic training says you get to add, for instance, as a Yellow Ranger, I just happen to be on that page, as a Yellow Ranger, you get +2 to your speed essence and +1 to your smarts essence. Now, using those increases means you're going to get 2 points in a speed skills. So 2 points to put in speed skills and 1 point to put in smart skills. Your basic training says that the speed skills needs to be either acrobatics or initiative and 1 point in finesse. Your smarts bonus will be in alertness. It's the only one there. Now, the reason why those are there is because that's what gives you the root to the powers that come with that role. Basically, all of the basic training skills will be helpful with the roles that you get, or the role perks that you get as you progress levels. Yes, you'll get more essence points to spend in things. Yes, you could have used your base 12 or your origin to increase those as well. But this kind of helps a new player from making an error and being like, well, great, I don't get another speed increase until level 5. I forgot to take anything in finesse. Half of my powers key off of finesse. That's why we say you get one of these, and then you have to take a point of finesse. Because we know We don't. The last thing we want is for someone to be upset that they're level 3 power and they don't have any skills to use it because they didn't spend any points that way. The training of the role goes along with the powers and with the theme of that spectrum. Okay, got it? Yes, yes, yes. The other thing that Power Ranger role gives you is how much personal power you contain. Personal power is basically the energy of the Morphin Grid that flows through your body. As a Power Ranger, you are attuned to the Morphin Grid, and the Morphin Grid is kind of, I don't want to be like, it's the Matrix. It's not the Matrix. It's more like if the Matrix and the Force had a baby, and that baby was an alternate dimension. It's an actual kind of energy-filled realm that lives and coexists in all places and all things. And the Power Rangers, through the Morphin Master, through the studies of the Morphin Masters and the creations of the creations of the Master Forces, you have access to that power, and that power allows you to call things into being, allows you to animate things, allows you to do a bunch of crazy stuff. As a character, you have a personal power pool that varies from role to role. Some roles use more than others. Some roles might only use them to occasionally, boost their stats. There's a few things that everybody can do with their personal power, but a lot of your perks and grid powers require you to spend power to do so. Obviously, there is no drawback if you run out of power. You just can't access those other things. And you regenerate a set number of power points every 24 hours, or effectively like every time you take a rest. When you take a 6-hour rest and get some health back and get some essence points back, you also get power points back if you want, up to a certain maximum every 24 hours. And of course, there's other ways to get power. There are, always, there could be narrative things. You could have a power battery. There are some features and perks that could access extra power. There are a couple of role perks that allow people to transmit power from one person to another. Basically, there is just a lot of things to do with power, but it is still a finite resource for characters. And the higher the role level they get, the bigger personal power pool they get, but it does not change how fast they regenerate their power. So I'm not saying use it sparingly. Absolutely not. Use it as you should. Just keep in mind that it might not be, this never-ending pool. You will have to you will have to return back to the power pool, siphon some of that off of the Morphin Grid, replenish your stores, and that might take a little while. You don't want to just go, oh, it's the first combat, I spend 5 power to do other things, and I shine really well, I do super good for 1 round, and I murdered the bad guy. And then your DM goes, but then Rita throws down the wand, and it gets big, so it is a resource. Think of it that way. You also, as a Power Ranger, you get the access to specific power weapons. Power weapons are basically just regular everyday weapons, but they're created out of the essence of the Morphin Grid, and so they have the power nomenclature. And while that doesn't do anything explicitly on its own, there are a ton of things that key off of the power weapon word. So basically, you might have a role perk or a general perk or something that says when using a power weapon. A power weapon in and of itself doesn't necessarily mean that it's got like some kind of cool bonus over something else. It just means that it's a conduit for your grid energy. It is a conduit for your personal power and possibly other effects in game. It also, all Power Rangers get the ability to shout out in all their glory, it's Morphin time, do your fancy cool thing, and turn into your Power Ranger self. When you do, you are wrapped in a Morphin shell. You are wrapped in basically the energy of the Morphin Grid taking form, as your own personal sort of your suit, your uniform, your armor. And despite the fact that all the Power Rangers look like they're wearing spandex, maybe with some extra plates on them, the strength of the energy involved making that morphin shell does offer you a bonus to your toughness defense based off of what level of armor that particular role is capable of. And then using general perks, you can always increase that. So yes, while a Yellow Ranger only starts with the light armor bonus when they morph, if someone decided to start using their Yellow Ranger as an upfront, I'm going to soak the damage type fighter, they could start spending general perks to increase their light to medium to heavy to ultra heavy, so forth and so on. Yeah, it might be a little more of a trek for a light ranger to try and become the tank. It's still an option. You still can try. You still can do that. So that's, and of course, as a ranger, you always get access to your power up and risk communicator, whatever your personal morphing device is. That's how you start off. That's your first level character. And from there on out, it is gaining experience, experience. I meant as not like points, not like D&D experience points, but experiences that I'm experiencing the world around me. I'm becoming a more experienced ranger. And the way that works is basically every segment of an adventure will probably state what role level a team should roughly be at for the threats involved. And at the end of some segments, especially the pre-written adventures, it might say, hey, you guys did a really good job, everyone should gain a role level. We really kind of preferred on the milestone aspect of leveling up, so to speak, rather than individual experience points or keeping track of all the little tidbits. And that was because in a heavily narrative game and narrative system like Essence 20, we didn't want the number crunch to get in the way of, this is a really cool moment, you guys all graduate to the next level. You guys all get cooler. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. All right. Every ranger is built out of general powers, perks, grid powers, role perks, all of these different things that they can do. And a lot of that stuff is swappable, malleable. At certain level, I'll choose this, you choose that. This is absolutely on purpose in an effort to make so players can make whatever type of ranger they want within the hue that they choose, which within the spectrum color that they choose, they can mold their character a certain way. You want your Green Ranger to be more of the leader instead of a loner? That's cool. Keep in mind, a lot of the role perks are going to be kind of lonery, but your general perks and your other stuff, you could build that person to be more of a leader. And then there is also the possibility that you choose to shift. You choose to change your spectrum. There is a general perk called Spectrum Shift, and that allows, similar to what Tommy Oliver does in the show several times, is change your ranger color and kind of roll within the team from one to another. Tommy starts off as the Green Ranger. Actually, starts off as the evil Green Ranger, but we won't get into that. Starts off as the Green Ranger, eventually turns into the White Ranger, eventually turns into a Red Ranger. Like, it is a flexible enough system that'll let you alter your stuff. Now, that being said, the Spectrum Shift is not multi-classing. Don't think that if it is. It doesn't let you, I'll grab 3 levels of red and 1 level of, it doesn't do that. It actually changes your character completely. There's a reason why when Tommy was a White Ranger, he did not call the Dragon Zord. There's a reason why he didn't have the Dragon Dagger. He didn't throw the green fireballs. He didn't do those things because he was a White Ranger. It's just like when he was a White Ranger and then turned into a Red Ranger, why he didn't call on Saba, why he didn't get the White Tiger Zord. Does that make sense? I bet it makes sense. All right. I just looked out at the clock. We're getting close to. I couldn't even go through. I didn't even get through this book, and there's so much to talk about in this book. Let's go ahead and give you the quick breakdown on how the system itself works, how rolling the dice system works, and this is important. The Essence 20 system, the 20 stands for the D20. Every time that you go to attempt an action, you are going to roll a D20 plus a skill die. Depending on the level of your skill, your level starts off, if you put one level in it, you get a D2, goes up to a D4, D6, D8, D10, D12. That's the max skill levels for your dice. There are modifiers that allow you to shift up and shift down on that dice ladder. So if you have it, let's say you have a D2, but it's a particularly easy task, your GM could say, "Hey, take the skill check, but give it a dice shift up." So now instead of rolling a D2, you're rolling a D4. The opposite is also true. Let's say you're sitting at a D8 in something. You are particularly good with their blade blaster, and you have a D8 in it. And you go, I'm going to try and shoot Zed's staff out of his hand. Your game master can look at you and go, all right, called shot for a special critical effect. You can do that, but go ahead and take a dice shift down because of your specific aim. So now instead of rolling a D8, you're rolling a D6. When you roll that skill test, you roll a D20 plus the representative skill die, and you add them together. Bloop. If that beats the difficulty number of whatever the target's defense is, whatever the difficulty set by the game master is, then it succeeds. Easy as that. In most cases, it is just a pass-fail sort of situation. In combat, or in certain instances where there might be varying degrees of success, let's say it's a difficulty 8, relatively easy thing to do, and you roll a total of 16, you've doubled the difficulty. That means it's a success with actual extra degree of success because you doubled it. Let's say it's that difficulty 8 and you roll a 24. That's 3 degrees of success. And depending on what skill check that might be, it might just be you're doing some computer stuff and the game master says 3 degrees of success. You do it in an instant. It doesn't take you 20 minutes, it takes you 3. In the case of something that might have progressive gains, like a streetwise check to listen for gossip, 2 degrees of success might very well get you multiple rumors, or maybe a better version of a rumor, or a guaranteed, like a rumor that you know is for fact to be true. Something along those lines. It's all up to the game master or what's written in the description of the skill test. When it comes to combat, degrees of success go hand in hand with something called a critical effect. So to get a critical effect, every item, every weapon or every attack will have all of its normal stats, and then it will have a damage stat. Most things are 1. You'll note health and damage in this game are pretty low. When you get that 1 damage, if you succeed, it does that 1 damage of that type. So in the case of like hitting somebody with a club, does 1 blunt damage. Stabbing somebody with a sword does 1 sharp damage. Zapping somebody with your blaster does 1 energy damage. There you go. For every degree of success beyond that first one, you get to apply it a second time. So if you're shooting something with like you're shooting a basic putty with a defensive 11. An evasion defensive 11 is relatively easy to hit. You roll a 22. Instead of doing 1 energy damage for your blaster, it's actually going to do 2 energy damage because you're getting to apply that a second time. Additionally, there's another way to get a special effect, and that is a critical. The way to get a critical success is if your roll succeeds and your skill die of D4 or higher shows its maximum number, That's a critical success. Now, there's a reason why I said shows its a D4 or higher, shows its number, but I didn't necessarily say that you took that number, because there are things called skill specializations. Skill specializations are, instead of spending a level on the skill to increase the die, you spend a level on the skill to better focus it down. So I mentioned targeting. Targeting is what you use to shoot a blade blaster. Let's say that particular guy goes, I'm not I don't care if I'm generally good with all targeting, with all shooting. So I go from D2 to D4, and then instead of going to a D6, I choose to specialize in Blade Blaster. So when you are specialized, it doesn't mean that you're bad at everything else. He still will have a D4 in every other targeting instance. It just means when he's using a Blade Blaster, he gets the bonus of specialization. The bonus of specialization is you get to roll all of your skill dice, take the highest result, and add it to the D20. So in the case of that guy who only had a D4, he is rolling a D20 plus a D2 and a D4, taking the higher result between the 2 and the 4. Let's say someone has a D8 in their skill, and they're specialized. They roll a D20, and a D2, and a D4, and a D6, and a D8, taking the highest number of those representative skill dice. Now, of those representative skill dice, even if it's not the highest number, but you are still successful with your total, and a D4 or higher is showing its highest die, bam, critical success. In the case of combat, that's easy. Critical successes either trigger some special critical effect on the weapon, like a whip might knock somebody prone, or some kind of energy vampire might have a critical effect that sucks the personal power out of you. If it doesn't have a listed critical effect, the critical effect is just to apply the damage another time. Or also, again, because Essence 20 is a very malleable system, you could look at your GM and say, all right, I don't have a listed critical effect. Can I use it to do this instead? Can I spend that critical effect to do something cool? And that's totally, that's what we want this system to be, is you guys doing cool stuff at the table, so you can then go, oh my gosh, we had this amazing game last night, I got to do this thing. Does that make sense? I'm sure it does. Just on the opposite end of critical successes, there are also fumbles. Fumbles are if you roll a 1 on your D20 roll and also fail the skill check, it is a fumble. Now, the reason why I say and also fail is because there's possibility that you might be rolling, let's say you're rolling a D12 and it's only difficulty 10. You could roll a 1 on the D20 and a 9 or better on the D12 and still succeed, thereby not making it a failure, thereby not making it a fumble. It's just obviously far more likely if you're rolling a 1 on a D20 that it's probably going to fail. And then if that's the case, then it's also a fumble. Fumbles in this game there's some kind of narrative effect based off of what the GM might want you to do. Maybe you drop your weapon, maybe you trip, maybe everyone gets a bonus to attack you for the rest of the turn. Something narrative happens, it's up to you. But one of the things that we believe on the Essence 20 team is that everyone should learn from their mistakes, and if there is a fumble, your team gains a story point. Story points are something that the entire team has a pool of, and that pool allows you to reroll ones. It allows you to spend to be specialized in something you're not normally specialized in. It lets you get access to a random tool. Basically, kind of the man, I really wish I had a crowbar. I'm going to spend a story point to go look in this trash pile and go, hey, there's not a crowbar, but here's an old metal piece of rebar that will work. Does that make sense? Also, a group use of story points. If you spend 1 story point for everybody in the party, everybody in your team, you get an energy. You get a power bloom, a Morphin Grid bloom. Which gives everybody power points back. that is not part of their regular regeneration. So that's what I was talking about. How there's other ways to get your power back. That's one of them. One thing I'm going to discuss one last cool thing about the SS20 system. I mentioned earlier edge and snag. Edge and snag is part of the dice rolling system, whereas a game master for little things, for kind of momentary difficulty, you can shift up or shift down the dice on that dice ladder based off of what they're rolling for their skill dice. There is also edge and snag. Edge means that what you're doing, you as a character are so proficient at it. This is such the perfect moment for that you actually get to roll 2d20 and take the better of the 2d20 and add it to your highest skill die. And then the opposite of that is a snag. Snag means you roll 2d20 and you take the worst. So that's another way that the dice system kind of sort of polices itself if you're trying to do something that's particularly difficult, or if you're trying to do something that's particularly easy, or maybe something that your character is really, really good at, but the system, like a pre-written adventure, might not know that you're really, really good at underwater basket weaving, but when it's time for you to lace together the shark net underwater, you go, I'm super good at underwater basket weaving, and then your GM can go, take an edge, underwater basket weaver ranger, and then therefore that's it's better than a dice shift. It actually increases your probability of getting a higher number on that big swing d20, and then obviously the opposite is also true. Snag and edge cancel each other out. Let's say that you're using a power that is particularly potent or something, and so it says that this instance always has a snag, but then one of your influence perks keys off and says you have edge. Those two things will cancel out. They don't, it's not like a stacking thing, like, oh, if I've got two things that give me snag and one thing that gives me edge, I still have snag. Think of it like a light switch. Is if they're both on, they don't do anything. If they're both off, they don't do anything. If one, like, it's do I have it or do I not? And that's how you flip the switches. As you progress in the Power Rangers game, you get your own Zords. You get to build and design your own Zord. Yeah, you can choose to just take one of the carbon copy ones if you want. It's up to you. Be like, maybe you're a huge fan of Triceratopses, and you're like, Triceratopses, the three-horned guys. Maybe you're a huge fan of that dinosaur, and you go, you know what? I'm just going to base it off of that one. That's what I want. That's fine. Every general team steering has a particular kind of feel to their Zords. And as you progress levels, your Zord also gets cooler. It gets things called Zord Features. And Zord Features are what allow you to take special actions, do new and more powerful things with your Zord, potentially have new combined forms, turning eventually into the giant Megazords. If you choose those abilities. I mean, it's possible that you could have an entire team of people whose Zords don't combine. For instance, like the Alien Rangers in the show, they had all of their Zords just were giant robots that didn't join together. They just didn't have the combiner trait. Easy as that. And so these Zords, they've got their own rules. They've got their own narrative rules as well. So you can't just be like, oh, there's a field full of putties. Call in the Tyrannosaurus. Let's destroy them all. There are codes of conduct for a Power Ranger. It's a way for it is a way for the game to basically say, hey, yeah, you can call in your Zords when you need them, but they're not a taxi. And they aren't a way to play on easy mode. So you gotta be good. You gotta take that into consideration, so forth. But that's the basics. You have your skills, you have your powers, you have your various perks and grid powers. The book itself has a list of all kinds of new powers and stuff for you to choose from to help mold your character into the one you want. It's got the different roles themselves, like as far as rolls as in dice rolls, not rolls as in Red Ranger, Green Ranger, that sort of thing. Things that you can do with your different skills. And then it's got a whole big section on equipment. Some of this equipment is from some of the TV show references. Some of this equipment is like just kind of a hint of things to come, and different rules for using them. All kinds of different gears and vehicles that are not just Zords. Again, Zords are taxis, so maybe you do want to have a ninja cycle. Yep. Or a galaxy glider, if you will. But yeah, so there's a huge section of vehicles and then into the Zords. Ignore the clicking that you're probably hearing. That's me paging through my mouse. Obviously there's rules on combat. We discussed earlier roughly combat's just a basis is skill checks against each other that goes off of your personal defense. Your personal defenses, depending on how... I'm going to take a minute to this, because this is something that I know has come up before when we ran the games at Gen Con and Gamehole Con. So you have a defense key attached to every essence. Your smarts gives... Or your smarts. I started down the line. Your strength essence added to 10 gives you your toughness defense. Your speed essence added to 10 gives you your evasion defense. Your smarts essence added to 10 gives you your willpower defense. And your social essence added to 10 gives you your cleverness defense. So, these 4 defenses are what everybody, when they're targeting you with some kind of game effect, whether it's a trap, a poison trap, a monster's attack, a camera trying to see you, or Bulk and Skull trying to overhear what's happening at your table. Whatever they're rolling, they are rolling against one of your defenses. The defenses are based off of either that particular roll will be specifically set as this rolls against this number or against this defense, or it won't specify, and it kind of leaves it up to the situation. So, like, let's say someone is trapped in a room. They walk into their house and their kitchen has been rigged to the shutters drop and the room begins to fill with poison gas. The poison gas might say that it affects toughness, that it targets the toughness of the target. Targets the toughness of the target. Targets the toughness of the ranger. That ranger, let's say that maybe they're a really smart character, very, very smarts heavy, and their willpower defense is way higher. Maybe they look at the game master and go, okay, rather than just toughing it out, I want to try and outsmart the poison by grabbing baking soda and vinegar or peanut butter or whatever I need to smear over my nostrils or to splash it in my face so it doesn't get in my eyes or whatever. Insert random TV MacGyver moment. And if the GM goes, you know what, that's pretty cool, he might very well choose to roll his or their poison attack against cleverness defense instead, or not cleverness, willpower defense instead of toughness. Or let's say there's that guy that says, you know what, I'm going to jump out the window. I'm going to be fast enough to get, as the gas is, I'm just going to dive out the window. And maybe they have something that says that they get to go first in the round or something like that. The game master might decide to actually make that test against their evasion. Sometimes these will be set. For instance, almost all firearms, non-energy based, lasers, like actual, like I fire a bullet at you, will have the ballistic keyword, and the ballistic keyword means that if it's in the short range of the shorter reach of the weapon, the close reach of the weapon, short range, if you will, then you can choose to use evasion because you can kind of see where the guy is pointing. Roughly, you can kind of get an idea, so you might be able to not be where that gun is when it fires. But if it's in longer range, if it's in the longer reach, you have to use your toughness because there's no way for you. If a sniper is 3 blocks away, there's no way for you to know to dodge it. It really just plays off of whether or not he hits you in a soft enough spot to do damage. Hence, toughness defense. So that's how the defenses work. Everybody has a health. Your starting characters will start with 1 or more health. There is a strength skill called conditioning that allows you to add health to your character to become basically, you're able to take more of a beating. So most characters at first level will probably have between 2 and 3 health. You might have more. And when you reach 0 health, because of the damage that you've taken, you achieve the defeated status. And defeated in the Power Rangers game depends on the situation. Sometimes maybe the monster will stomp off to go destroy the power plant, or maybe you'll be taken captive, or perhaps in this instance, the defeated will be a trigger for another event. It all depends on the circumstance. But primarily, this is, like I said, this is a storytelling-based game. This is a narrative-based game, and the last thing we want to do is basically say some bad rolls kills your guy. So ultimately, it's up to the game master and the situation of what that defeated means. Whether it is you're playing a super gritty, super visceral game, and defeated gives you like this gnarly scar, or heck, in some cases, maybe the GM says this could kill you, or it is it sends you guys reeling back, rolling across the grassy knoll to then go, what are we gonna do? It is totally up to the game master and the situation as what defeated actually means, and that actually also goes with the threats. It goes with bad guys. Just bringing a bad guy down to 0 health doesn't necessarily mean that they're dead. You're not necessarily killing people as the heroes. Also doesn't necessarily mean that you're knocking them out. Sometimes their defeated stat their defeated their defeated parameter might very well in the adventure say when you defeat them they make this big monologue and run away. Or in the case of a lot of Power Rangers monsters, if you defeat them, they beseech Rita to throw down her wand and make the monster grow. So it is ultimately up to the situation and up to what kind of game that you want to play and what kind of scene you want to run. Maybe you want you're playing a game where defeated is very TV show sparks and rolls, but then you want one of your sessions to really stand out. And so you have one of the characters, you talk to them ahead of time and you work it out that their personal defeated is actually dying. And so they have like this big moment in game. That's up to you. That's up to the game master and it's up to the players. All right, so I have jawed on quite a bit today about the Power Rangers role-playing game because it's awesome. And this is just the beginning. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the new things coming down the road or the other gaming licenses that are using the Essence 20 system that can be played alongside or even with the Power Rangers game. I'm not going to discuss any of that kind of stuff. I'm going to wait until those books come out and then do another video like this. But it was a labor of love. I'll say that I was a Power Rangers fan. I had watched a bit, but I was not a hardcore fan when I got this gig originally. I was entertained by it. I liked some of the different seasons. I had watched episodes through several of them. But then once I got this, a at this point, almost 2 years ago, when I got this gig, I really did the deep dive. I started reading the cool comics. I watched hundreds of episodes of Mighty Morphin and into some of the other stuff. And now at this point, I occasionally watch it because it's cool, because it's a cool world. It's an interesting setting, and it's very, very rich, and it's very, very deep. There's a lot going on. I highly suggest, if you can get over the kind of, rubber suit monster jumping around, we're teenagers with attitude. If you can get past that kind of stuff and just enjoy the show for what it is, I think you should get into it. I think you should watch it, give it a try, especially some of the later shows, like Power Rangers SPD, Space Patrol Delta, for those of you who don't know. The new one, was it Dino Fury on Netflix, is fantastic. And I'm even saying that because, yeah, it's still a rubber suit kaiju show, but it's got heart, man, and it's got a lot of cool stuff in there that, if given enough time and effort and publications, hopefully we'll be able to add all that stuff in. And if not, we'll hope that you, as an Essence 20 player / GM out there, you'll be able to figure out how to do it for your table in the interim. But you know how this goes. I'm just really excited about this being out in stores. I'm excited for players to have the PDF. I'm excited to start hearing about people playing the game and their different campaigns and their different characters and their different Zords. I want to hear about, I made this character and he's a squid Zord. That's what I want. I want to hear more about that. So please leave comments in the thread in here. Go to Facebook, follow us, that sort of thing. If you comment here, make sure you're a subscriber, share it to others, and get part of the raffle. Again, every month I choose a thread starter to win something cool, and chances are pretty good, as more cool Power Ranger stuff comes out, I'm probably going to start offering some pretty cool Power Ranger stuff. This is just how it works. This is what I do. So, you know how I like to tell everybody what I'm working on at the beginning of the show. Well, I'm going to reiterate that I'm still working on Essence 20 stuff. I'm still working on a cool Power Rangers thing right now. And so I'm super psyched about this release. I'm super psyched about this game and some of the stuff that I've already done that's coming out later on, for this license and some of the other licenses. This is really cool, and I really, really hope that you will give Essence 20 and the Power Rangers Roleplaying Game a shot. I know once the Power Rangers information gets opened on Roll20, I am thinking about probably running a one-shot, and there's a very good chance that may be in celebration of Power Rangers Month, which is February 2022 for Renegade. That I might tie that into my my comment raffle. We'll see. We'll see. But for now, please go check out the PDF. If you have a game store, get your copy there. Order it from Renegade, whatever you need to do. And you know how it is. Stay safe, get vaccinated, wear a mask if you're in a public place and you need it. But above all other things, please, 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 enjoy yourself. Bring a little light to your corner of this universe, and smile. Have a good day. But more important than anything else, I want you to go home, go to your store, go anywhere else, play some games. See you next week.